VCY America presents Crosstalk, a nationwide call-in program discussing issues that have an effect on our families, our communities, our churches, our nation, and our world. Crosstalk, an opportunity for you to voice your concerns for biblical principles. And now live by satellite and around the world on the internet at vcyamerica.org. Here is today's Crosstalk.
And we thank you for tuning in to Crosstalk here on the VCY America Network. My name is Jim Schneider. Friends, a number of the issues we talk about on Crosstalk are not pleasant things to talk about, but we find them as being necessary things to talk about. So often we hear about the watchman on the wall in the book of Ezekiel who certainly gives warning that danger is near. And folks, we are amidst that even as I speak. We're going to take a look specifically today, as we have done on other previous Crosstalk programs, to again give us a reminder of the downward trajectory that we are on as a nation, as we take a look here specifically on how the Obama administration is promoting the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender agenda just to no end. There's just no letting up on this issue. It's coming through a cabinet-level position after cabinet-level position. And today you're going to hear some things on Crosstalk that are perhaps astounding, information that you're not going to get from other sources, but information you need to know about. Why? Because we need to be praying for this nation. Why? Because we need revival to take place across this land. Why? Because we as a people need to turn back to God. Why? Because we need to see that we are acting morally reprehensible in the eyes of God at this time. And folks, some of the things I'm talking about here have happened just in this year of 2013. The majority of things are just within recent weeks, coming from the Obama administration to further the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender agenda. Let's begin with the story that came out late last week from Fox News, and many media sources were reporting it, of course. A historic argument for gay rights. President Barack Obama Thursday urged the Supreme Court to overturn California's same-sex marriage ban and turn a skeptical eye on similar prohibitions across the country. Folks, this is going to have national significance. The Supreme Court is going to be hearing this case later this month, March the 26th. The Obama administration filed a friend of the court brief. It marked the first time a U.S. president has urged the high court to expand the rights of gays and lesbians to wed. The filing calls on the justices to strike down California's Proposition 8 ballot measure. The brief marks the president's most expansive view of gay marriage and signals that he is moving away from his previous assertion that states should determine their own marriage laws. Obama signed off on the administration's legal argument following lengthy discussions with the Attorney General Eric Holder and the Solicitor General Donald Verrilli. In a statement following the filing, Holder said, quote, "The government seeks to vindicate the defining constitutional idea of equal treatment under the law." Well, Obama's position, if adopted by this court, folks, would likely result in gay marriage becoming legal in the 7 other states: Delaware, Hawaii, Illinois, Nevada, New Jersey, Oregon, and Rhode Island. The Supreme Court has never given gay Americans the special protection it has afforded women and minorities. If it endorses such an approach, and the gay marriage cases, same-sex marriage bans around the country could be imperiled. Does your state have a marriage protection amendment? Folks, it stands in the way of peril at this very moment. Justices will be hearing oral arguments on March the 26th. And what's so astounding in all of this is that President Obama's Justice Department argued that homosexuals do as good a job parenting as heterosexual couples in a late-breaking amicus brief filed with the court. According to the legal brief opposing California's Prop 8, the overwhelming expert consensus, which is supported by numerous scientific studies, they quote, is that children raised, this is what they assert, that children raised by gay and lesbian parents are as likely to be well-adjusted as children raised by heterosexual parents. The weight of the scientific literature strongly supports the view that same-sex parents are just as capable as opposite-sex parents, end of quote, says the Obama administration. CNSnews.com reported that the Department of Justice, in essence, argued that children do not need and have no right to mothers. The Obama Justice Department arguing that in the United States Supreme Court that children don't need mothers. Their argument on the superfluity of motherhood is presented in a brief that his administration filed in Hollingsworth versus Perry, challenging the constitutionality of Prop 8. The Justice Department presented its conclusions about parenthood in rebutting an argument made by proponents of Prop 8 that there's the people who passed Prop 8 said, the traditional two-parent family led by both a father and mother was their ideal place, determined even by nature itself to raise a child. But the Obama administration argues this is not true. It argues that children need neither a father nor a mother, and that having two fathers or two mothers is just as good as having one. Well, last Friday, President Obama said that the country as a whole, speaking for you, ladies and gentlemen, that the country as a whole has gone through the same evolution he has in now supporting same-sex marriage. During a press conference Friday, Mr. Obama was asked about his Justice Department's brief in the California Prop 8 case before the Supreme Court, and he had some things that he shared at that news conference.
Mr. President, your administration weighed in yesterday on the Proposition 8 case. A few months ago, it looked like you might be averse to doing that. And I just wondered if you could talk a little bit about your deliberations and how your thinking evolved on that. Were there conversations that were important to you? Were there things that you read that influenced your thinking?
As everybody here knows, last year, upon a long period of reflection, I concluded that we cannot discriminate against same-sex couples when it comes to marriage. That the basic principle that America is founded on, the idea that we're all created equal, applies to everybody, regardless of sexual orientation, as well as race or gender or religion or ethnicity. I think that the same evolution that I've gone through is an evolution that the country as a whole has gone through. And I think it is a profoundly positive thing. So that when the Supreme Court essentially called the question by taking this case about California's law, I didn't feel like that was something that this administration could avoid. I felt it was important for us to articulate what I believe and what this administration stands for. And although I do think that we're seeing on a state-by-state basis progress being made, more and more states recognizing same-sex couples and giving them the opportunity to marry and maintain all the benefits of marriage that heterosexual couples do. When the Supreme Court asks, do you think that the California law, which doesn't provide any rationale for discriminating against same-sex couples other than just the notion that, well, they're same-sex couples, if the Supreme Court asks me, or my Attorney General or a Solicitor General, do we think that meets constitutional muster, I felt it was important for us to answer that question honestly, and the answer is no.
Well, that's President Barack Obama this past Friday as he is urging the U.S. Supreme Court to overturn the gay marriage ban. Again, that's an oxymoron. There is not, you can't have gay marriage. Marriage is between a man and a woman. So that is the term that is utilized here today. So I just want that little clarification there. But folks, this could actually bring what is termed same-sex marriage to multiple states across the country and imperil states that have marriage protection amendments from exercising their belief on the will of the people that marriage is to be between one man and one woman. Folks, this is just within the last few days, the Obama administration filing this paperwork with the U.S. Supreme Court as the court prepares for the oral arguments coming up later this month. And that's not the only issue. Last Thursday, the House joined the Senate, passing the reauthorization of the Violence Against Women Act. It's called VAWA or VAWA. The reauthorization bill now includes new protections for a number of communities, including LGBT. President Obama said in a statement, quote, "I was pleased to see the House of Representatives come together and vote to reauthorize and strengthen the Violence Against Women Act. Over more than 2 decades, this law has saved countless lives and transformed the way we treat victims of abuse. Today's vote will go even further by continuing to reduce domestic violence, improving how we treat victims of rape, and extending protections to Native American women and members of the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender community." So, folks, we are seeing the Violence Against Women Act being expanded now, this brand new umbrella on LGBT. Oh, it doesn't stop there, because last month, Michael Uden, Acting Assistant Secretary for Special Education and Rehabilitative Services at the U.S. Department of Education, participated in the 4th Annual National Educator Conference focused on creating safe, supportive, and inclusive schools for LGBT youth. A goal of the conference, presented by the Center for Excellence in School Counseling and Leadership, was to bring together education leaders and along with them, LGBT experts to empower and provide educators and school personnel with the knowledge and skills necessary to create safe, welcoming, and inclusive school environments for all youth, regardless of their sexual orientation or gender identity. In addressing the conference, Assistant Secretary Uden asked educators in attendance to help improve the school experience of LGBT youth. And so several ideas were given, such as to be proactive. Teachers, be proactive and visible to LGBT youth. They cannot know they are supported, valued, and appreciated if the adults in the building aren't there to tell them so. So be affirming of them. Identify safe spaces such as counselors' offices, designated classrooms, or student organizations where LGBT youth can receive a support from administrators, teachers, and other school staff. Encourage student-led and student-organized school clubs that promote a safe and welcoming and accepting school environment. Gay-straight alliances, which are school clubs open to youth of all sexual orientations. Understand student mental health issues. Everyone can play a role here, not only school counselors or nurses, but teachers and administrators that can identify warning signs like sudden changes in behavior. And importantly, they are not alone. While educators play a critical role in providing support to LGBT youth, they can build partnerships with local health and mental health agencies, community-based organizations, and child welfare. There are federal resources to provide guidance and information how to make schools safe, supportive, and inclusive. That's the address from Michael Uden, Acting Assistant Secretary for Education's Office of Special Education and Rehabilitative Services. So it's coming through the Supreme Court briefs. It's coming down through, even HUD, Housing and Urban Development. Coming down through this Violence Against Women Act. Coming down through education. And folks, there's a brand new way your tax dollars are being used by the State Department regarding LGBT travel. I'll tell you about it in just a minute.
Back to Genesis with Dr. John Morris, creation researcher at the Institute for Creation Research. Dr. Morris, do animals that normally eat plants sometimes also eat meat?
In many cases they do, Chris. I heard recently of a family on a farm who kept losing chickens until they found out that their cow would sometimes alter their normal diet and eat the chickens. There's a biblical lesson to be learned here. In the beginning, God created everything to be plant eaters, but after the curse, certain of the animals became carnivorous. In time of great need, carnivorous animals can get by on a diet of plants, and many vegetarian animals are known to eat meat. God has designed them all with flexibility. They might have preferences, but they do what they need to do to survive. God created each animal type after its kind with amazing abilities and great adaptability to any conditions. And He did so back in Genesis.
For more on the importance of creation, visit our website at icr.org.
You're listening to Crosstalk here on VCY America. Again, as we said at the outset of the program today, some things we bring up on the program are not pleasant things to discuss, but folks, we need to be made aware of them. Scripture says, "My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge." And we can only poke our head in the sand for so long and not understand the things that are taking place, the trajectory upon which this nation is headed in a very fast downward moral to the downward moral abyss as far as where we're heading here. And folks, it is not letting up. It's coming down through cabinet level office after cabinet level office. And now we learned recently that the State Department, remember John Kerry who took over this and warned about, the sequester? Remember how devastating this was going to be to security around the world, and we're going to have to do this, this, and that. By the way, on that issue, Sunday, he just rewarded Egypt for President Mohamed Morsi's pledges of political and economic reforms by releasing $250 million in American aid to support their country's future as a democracy. Folks, remember sequester, all this money we're going to lose? We just gave all these tanks. We just gave all these fighter jets to Egypt. And now another $250 million to Cairo to support the country's, quote, future as a democracy. I wonder if he's ever heard the term Muslim Brotherhood, but I digress to another topic. But we heard all this about the sequester and how devastated the State Department was going to be, and on and on and on and on. Well, recently, the Department of State's Bureau of Consular Affairs launched a Smart Traveler Day campaign to encourage U.S. citizens to travel smart by learning about their destinations before they travel and by staying connected when they are abroad by enrolling in the Smart Traveler Enrollment Program, or the STEP program. Well, you guessed it, folks. As part of these efforts to engage U.S. citizen travelers about being safe and smart travelers, the Bureau of Consular Affairs has launched a new site for lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender travelers on travel.state.gov, where they can learn more about attitudes toward LGBT persons internationally and programs and resources offered by the State Department for LGBT travelers. Looking at a press statement from the U.S. Department of State on February 20th, 2013, not too many days back, they say, as part of our efforts to engage U.S. citizen travelers about Smart Traveler Day and becoming safe and smart travelers, the Bureau of Consular Affairs will be conducting outreach to audiences that include students planning to travel abroad and lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender travelers to discuss important issues they may confront when they travel. We have a dedicated website for student travelers, and we recently made available information for LGBT travelers. Travelers also can follow us on Twitter and become a fan of the Bureau of Consular Affairs on Facebook as well. Where did they get the money to develop all this? Where did they get the money to put out all these LGBT alerts? Folks, they have a multiple-page document that's headlined on the State Department's, it's a State Department agency, the Consular, LGBT travel information it's called. And it starts out with a quote that Hillary Clinton gave when she was Secretary of State, saying, "By fighting for the rights of so many others, we realize that gay rights are human rights and human rights are gay rights." Well, their advisory and LGBT travel information says there are a number of countries that provide legal protections to those who are LGBT. Unfortunately, this is the State Department speaking on your behalf. Unfortunately, there are others that do not, and a significant number that even criminalize consensual same-sex sexual relations. Before choosing one's international destination, LGBT travelers should carefully consider the laws and biases of their international destination and decide how open one can be regarding one's sexual orientation or gender identity. So they have several hints before you travel. invest in a good current guidebook. Many specialize in advice to LGBT travelers. The Internet and the press that specializes in LGBT issues are also good resources, they say. Your travel agent or tour operator might have information about LGBT issues, particularly in the more popular holiday destinations. They go through and answer a number of questions. What documents should LGBT individuals or families carrying when traveling abroad? How do I document a change of name through marriage? That's for LGBTs. What is the policy of the U.S. Department of State regarding the passport identity of transgender travelers? Yeah, they've got a whole section on their site about passport services identification requirements for gender reassignment through the state's website, through that's the Department of State, the Bureau of Consular Affairs, and they've got a whole list of things right there. Identification requirements for gender reassignment applicants, talking about a physician certifying your transition's complete, then you're eligible for a full validity 10-year passport. However, if you're in transition between genders right now, you can get a limited validity to your 2-year passport, and tells you the hoops that you have to go through and medical professional signature and so on. They also have here on the Department of State site, what is the policy of the U.S. Department of State regarding the passport identity of the transgender travelers? How can I find HIV entry requirements of foreign countries? And then while you're there in the country, the State Department recommending avoiding excessive physical displays of affection in public, particularly in more conservative countries or regions. If you intend to frequent internet chat rooms or other meeting places, it's wise to find out about the local situation. Police in some countries have known to monitor such sites and locales with the intention of carrying out entrapment campaigns. Be wary of newfound friends. Criminals sometimes exploit the generally open and relaxed nature of the LGBT scene. Some resorts or LGBT neighborhoods can be quite segregated. Be aware that local residents may not approve of expressions of sexuality when you're in surrounding areas. Why is the State Department going through all this? Why is the State Department using your tax dollars and putting together a website like this, when they're talking about all the disaster that's going to befall us and all the issues that will happen to us, cutbacks in the State Department, yet they have money for a full-blown lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender travel service? Then they also have immigration issues on petitioning for immigrant visas for same-sex spouses, and then blames DOMA, the Defense of Marriage Act, which the Obama administration is fighting right now, for not being able to do certain things. And then they also give other useful links for individuals, such as having them consult the International Lesbian and Gay Association. Is this the role of government? Then they have many countries with country-specific information. Let's go to the Luxembourg page. Luxembourg is generally considered an LGBT-friendly country. Societal abuses and discrimination and acts of violence based on sexual orientation and gender identity are rare. For more information, consult local resources such as the website of, and then they give a website here, a non-governmental organization concerned with the interests of the LGBT community in Luxembourg. The Department of State recommending people going to visit LGBT websites. And then let's go to Serbia. Special issues for LGBT travelers. Serbia has active and increasingly visible lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender advocacy groups, and several LGBT bars operate openly and without problems in Belgrade. The New York Times. Folks, this is the State Department. The New York Times recently reported on increased travel to Serbia for sex reassignment surgery. Many LGBT public events, including 2012 Pride Week events, have been held without incident. Although the 2011 and 2012 Pride parades were canceled because of security concerns, LGBT travelers should consider exercising caution when visiting Serbia, especially with regard to expressing affection in public. Individual police officers may have limited experience or knowledge with regard to specific concerns of LGBT individuals or the LGBT community more broadly. And they go on and on. Folks, we are witnessing, I believe, what Scripture says as it was in the days of Noah. We are certainly seeing the proliferation of the activities of Sodom and Gomorrah being played out and being promoted by the government. I'm going to provide a few phone numbers for you here for the Secretary of State and the Consular Affairs Office. They're putting this full bore into practice and doing broad promotion of this at this point. You can share your views with them. I'll let you know you can contact your senators and congressmen. But folks, we really need to be in prayer for this nation, the direction we're heading. But there is a full-bore program moving forward to promote lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgenderism at every aspect of the Obama administration. And it's happened since day number one. This whole travel thing comes from the Bureau of Consular Affairs. Consular, C-O-N-S-U-L-A-R. The Assistant Secretary there, her name is Janice Jacobs. Phone number 202-647-9584. 202-647-9584. The Bureau of Consular Affairs answers to the Office of the Undersecretary for Management. The Undersecretary is Patrick Kennedy. Patrick Kennedy's phone number is 202-647-1500. 202-647-1500. So we have the Bureau of Consular Affairs answering to the Office of the Undersecretary for Management, who answers to the Secretary of State, John Kerry. His number is 202-647-5291. 202-647-5291. And maybe you want to contact your senators, your congressmen, and say, what is this sequester thing we talked about, all the cutbacks? Then why are we spending all this money through the State Department to have this website and all the work that's being done to do this country-by-country analysis, basically, on LGBT travel? Is that the role of our State Department? I guess I didn't find the page on Christian travel. Those who claim the name of God and believe that Jesus Christ is the Savior. This is some advice, or guidance here from the State Department. I guess I just couldn't find that page. If you want to contact your senators, you can do so at 202-224-3121, and your congressman at 202-225-3121. Oh, we've had all these warnings about sequester. Long lines at the airport, people, the illegal aliens being let loose from jails, all these things going on. But somehow there's all this money available to establish, in essence, an LGBT travel agency. I'd like to get your feedback on this issue today. We're opening our lines. Our telephone number to Crosstalk is 800-733-9829. 800-733-9829. Am I alone in my concern, or do you have concern as well? We'll be right back.
The basis of scientific research is to find the truth, and scientists, of all people, are supposed to have open minds and be willing to look at all the evidence. However, history has told us that once an idea has become entrenched, even scientists find it difficult to accept anything that deviates from the idea. This is now the case with evolution, and the theory of evolution is now a dogma. Refuting evolution has now been taken to a new level. In the book, Evolution Impossible, Dr. John Ashton provides some of the most compelling and authoritative rebuttals of evolution today. Chapter by chapter, in straightforward language, he provides 12 compelling reasons why evolution is false. He uses discoveries in genetics, biochemistry, geology, radiometric dating, and other scientific disciplines to explain why the theory of evolution is but a myth. Evolution Impossible is available from VCY America for a donation of $17 or more by calling 1-800-729-9829. That's 1-800-729-9829.
You're listening to Crosstalk here on VCY America. Folks, are you concerned about this issue? This is your tax dollars that are being utilized for this. Does that matter to you? Does it matter to you that we're seeing every aspect of this administration that is promoting the LGBT agenda more than, I believe, every president combined previous to this administration? Let's get your thoughts on it today. Our telephone number here, 800-733-9829. That's 800-733-9829. Tim in Ladysmith, Wisconsin, you're on the air.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. It seems that this is a death by 1,000 cuts that we're seeing happening. This is obviously just being railroaded down our throats, and I think what's really driving this, along with the Obama administration, obviously, is the radical gay activists that they want to force us to accept this lifestyle as normal, and so they're embedding this type of idealism in every aspect they possibly can, where it becomes so ingrained in our country that it's almost impossible to get it removed. Mm-hmm. I'm not entirely sure, other than a move of God in our country, how we're going to stop this from taking place. I'm sure there's, if you call those numbers, you're going to probably run into a lot of pro-activist gay people that are going to say, well, thanks for calling, appreciate it, but we're going to do what we want to do. So,
well, Tim, yeah. I appreciate your observations on it here today, and certainly I believe it's a matter of grave concern as to the direction this nation is heading. I agree. I believe the direction we're going, the what awaits this nation is something like this nation has never seen before.
Yeah, I agree, and it's indicative of the moral decline of where our nation is, unfortunately. And it is I guess, we are going to have to face the shaking and judgment of God in our nation to wake us up and turn us from this course of sin. So,
thanks, Tim, for your call today.
You.
Mm-hmm. Bye-bye. Our number, 800-733-9829. Let's go to Edward in Minnesota. You're on the air.
Yeah, thanks for taking my call. I was very disturbed to hear what you're bringing up on the Crosstalk, because, the liberals and Obama, all the anti-American people are trying to say separation of church and state. We got to have separation of church and state, and yet they're promoting Antichrist issues, spending our tax money through the cabinet, through the Supreme Court, and wherever they can, taking our taxpayers' money and spending it for Antichrist issues. Now, if that isn't if the people are using our tax money to spend against Christian principles, is that separation of church and state? I think not.
Thank you, Edward. Appreciate your thoughts today. 800-733-9829. Mason calling from Boston. You're on the air.
Hello. My point is all this money being spent, it's a terrible, terrible thing, because, we have little boys that are all 1 to 21 years old, and we got grandsons coming up. And with this being an everyday occurrence and the government saying it's okay, they're going to be exposed to this, like this sin, like nobody's been exposed to it before. And you go on TV, and there was Christmas commercials in which there was a homosexual, and he says, "Oh, can we ask?" I forget what the guy's name was. He's hot. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. And
our young people, our young men and women are really in trouble.
Well, you look what J.C. Penney did just a year ago with bringing on Ellen DeGeneres as their national spokesperson, and what was in their May catalog last year, having two lesbians pictured together and homosexuals there around Father's Day, lesbians on Mother's Day. J.C. Penney going that direction. No wonder why they're having troubles. But yeah, it's
McDonald's.
certainly.
Did you see the one in McDonald's, and they do mostly overseas, where a father was at the table with his son in McDonald's, and the boy was looking the father thought at the young girl that was at the next table, but he was really oogling the boy at the next table. I mean, vulgar.
Yeah.
It was just disgusting. And that's McDonald's. That's where our kids go, you know. Happy Meal.
Mason, thanks for your call here today.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye now. To Mac in Pace, Florida, you're on the air.
Yes, hello.
Hi there.
Well, I believe our country has just gone too far into sin, and I'm giving you my opinion. I think God has put Barack Obama into the position he has because he's going to use Mr. Obama and his liberal entourage to commit such wickedness. God is, forced to punish this nation. I see no hope of any revival or great awakening. I think where this country is going to see, the judgment, because I listen to Crosstalk almost daily, and all the things that you've brought up, looks like the devil's attacking us from every direction, and I see nothing for this country but wrath and judgment.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's where we're heading, Mac. But you know what? The same God who was the God during the time of Jonah and Nineveh is the same God we have today. And I know that, the time of Nineveh, the Bible tells us that their sin was great. The wickedness of Nineveh was great. But the people repented. Yet 40 days and Nineveh shall be destroyed was a message Jonah went forth with. But the people repented and turned. And God spared Nineveh at that time. Certainly, that same thing can happen today, but revival is certainly needed. We need to turn back to God.
Well, that's true.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your call. Appreciate your input. To New Berlin, Wisconsin, David, you're on the air.
Yes, Jim, I heard your comment about giving Cairo over $2 million. Was it how much? $200 million? Or?
Yeah, I think it was $250 million. It was $250 million. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that just baffles me how we can give money to other countries and we're broke here and we're borrowing money from China. I don't understand that at all.
Yeah.
The other thing is, I want to say I could fix the budget for them if they'd like to call me, the president and the Congress and Senate. I would just tell them stop spending money unless it's a necessity. That's all you have to spend money on.
Well,
is that right?
Well, no, I guess it depends how we define necessity, because the Obama administration defines necessity as needing to have an LGBT travel website through the State Department.
Well, that's true. That's true. You're right. Depends who's defining it. But anyway, thank you for your program. I appreciate it.
Thank you for your call here. To the state of Ohio, Solomon, you're on the air.
Yes, I just want to make a comment about it. I'm too a Christian. I believe that God is in the plan of everything. But I just listen to you spend at least 20 minutes giving a dialogue how to get in touch with these different nations and countries across around the world. Let them do that instead of you doing it. What we're doing, we need to preach the gospel and let them do what they do. If we get out there and preach the gospel, just like you giving all that information on how to get to these other places, you're doing the work for them.
Well, Solomon,
what we need to do is be preaching the gospel to the people.
Solomon, we are preaching the gospel. Solomon, hello, Solomon. We are preaching the gospel. We preach it. We say this is sin, and all of us have sinned, and we have been turned unto our own way. We know that the wages of sin is death, and certainly that's something that we are very concerned about. We are very thankful that Jesus Christ paid provided the way of salvation through His shed blood on the cross. He died, was buried, He rose again. There is hope. There's forgiveness that's found in Jesus Christ, and that message, Solomon, goes forth every day from this Christian radio station.
Well, what I'm saying is, why do you give out the information how to locate these people? Stop giving the information. Let them give the information.
Solomon, as I said before, as a prophet Hosea said, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Certainly we need to know what is taking place to be understanding of the times in which we live, just as the prophets of old proclaimed about the sin that was taking place in their land. I need to turn back to God, and certainly that model is there for us to follow as well. The answer is Jesus Christ. We totally agree on that, Solomon, but we can't be blinded to what's taking place around us as well. Our future generations are at stake. Our children, our grandchildren are at stake. Is this the kind of world that you want for them to be raised in, Solomon?
What I'm trying to say to you is let them do their promotion.
They are doing it, Solomon. They are doing it, and sadly, too many people are not aware of what's taking place. Thank you for your call here. To Fremont, Ohio. Brian, you're on the air.
Hi. I just wanted to comment that as long as Obama is in the White House, we're going to constantly have this type of sinful immorality type of behavior coming from the White House. America needs to wake up and flood their congressman to have this man impeached, and we've got to stop it. We can't forget that God destroyed the world the first time because of sexual immorality. He destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah because of sexual immorality, and we're heading down that same path. We've got to get this sinful person out of the White House. We have to take back our Constitution. We have to take back our country, and we have to take back our White House. Flood your congressman with calls demanding that they impeach this man and have him indicted for high treason. He's destroying our country. He has claimed that was his goal when he was with his anti-American hate groups. We've got to stop him. We have to take our country back.
Thank you for your thoughts, sir, Brian. And I guess greater even than that is the fact that we need to get back to the Bible, don't we, to borrow the name of another broadcast, but we got to get back to God's Word. Are we living? Are we proclaiming God's Word? To Jamie in Wisconsin, you're on the air.
Hi. I'd love to hear a whole show on the sentence that you had just before your break. Your sentence was, how come the State Department or whoever else has all this money to help LGBT travelers travel safely to all these different places? How come there isn't just as much emphasis and time and money and expertise on how Christians or Jews or whoever can travel safely? Hey, we're Americans too. We want to make sure that when we, believers, go to Somalia, wherever it is, that there are real and legitimate safety concerns and cultural concerns, that we have just as useful and as much and as trustworthy information as these LGBT people are getting from the State Department. A whole show on that and saying these are the messages that we at VCY want to take, that we want our listeners to take to the State Department and to congressional and to Senate representatives. That would be a great show.
Jamie, thank you.
There's a subject suggestion or request or something.
Thank you, Jamie, for your thoughts here today. We're just seconds away from the next break, so I'm just going to hold up on the calls until after the break takes place. But certainly we're talking about today just a full continued effort by the Obama administration, the end of last week, filing a friend of the court brief to overturn California's ban on what is termed same-sex marriage. That is going to have implications for states all across the nation. And now we are seeing the Department of Education getting greatly involved, the Housing and Urban Development getting greatly involved, and now the State Department getting even more involved by putting together a full-bore lesbian, gay, bisexual travel, transgender travel information page and center. We'll be right back. You're listening to Crosstalk.
For the Worldview Weekend Minute, I'm Brandon House. Today I begin a series on money and a biblical worldview. John MacArthur had a great comment about money and a biblical worldview, and he said 16 out of the 38 parables Jesus gave that are recorded in the New Testament deal with money. 16 out of 38. In fact, more is said in the New Testament about money than heaven and hell combined. 5 times more is said about money than prayer. There are about 500 verses or so on prayer and faith. There are 2,000 on dealing with money and possessions. Dr. MacArthur so rightly says, the Christianity that doesn't affect how you feel about money and how you handle money is not a biblical Christianity. Let's go back to the Bible and have a biblical worldview for money so we can be a blessing to others, further the gospel, and provide for our family. Over the next few weeks, we'll look at 20 principles for having a biblical worldview with money. For the Worldview Weekend Minute, I'm Brandon House. Our website, worldviewweekend.com.
We thank the many stations that are carrying Crosstalk to keep you informed on vital issues that are impacting us, and I trust that you're supporting your local Christian radio station that provides a Crosstalk to your ears each and every day. So take time to contact the station, support your local stations, say thanks for carrying Crosstalk. We're going to continue on here today with your phone calls. We're next going to the city of Milwaukee. Bob, you're on the air.
Having me on. I have a comment and then I have a question. First of all, I want to just comment that it appalls me that Christians are using the verse, no weapons shall be formed against me, or no weapons formed against me shall prosper, to venerate Obama. And these Christians are Christians who say they follow Christ. They're voting for Obama. Okay, and I just want to make a comment that completely appalls me. Second, my question is that as a Christian, what can I do to protect my children, and also to fight against this movement of the gay, lesbian, transgender movement?
Thank you for the call. There's several things you can do. It begins with prayer. It begins with prayer. It continues on with commitment on your part to bring your children up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord, and you have to consider what that entails. We are seeing a full-bore promotion of LGBT issues coming through the public education system. You can be active in your own voting and support those who represent the values that you hold, to represent biblical values. You can even be involved in contacting the numbers that we provided here for the Bureau of Consular Affairs and the Office for the Undersecretary. I'll give those numbers here to you again. But there is that aspect of speaking up. And sadly, what's happening is that what's happening in the society is now encroaching into the local church, whereby churches are no longer saying, this is wrong, this is sinful, and we ought not be a part of it. So it's certainly also being on guard within the confines of your church as well to model biblical principles for your church.
Yes. Thank you. Could I have those numbers? Sure.
I'll hang up with you, and I will give those numbers here on the air, okay?
Thank you.
Sure. The Bureau of Consular Affairs. The Assistant Secretary is Janice Jacobs. Phone number 202-647-9584. 202-647-9584. The office, and this Bureau of Consular Affairs answers to the Office of the Undersecretary for Management. The Undersecretary is Patrick Kennedy. Phone number 202-647-1500. 202-647-1500. And this person, the Undersecretary, answers directly to the Secretary, John Kerry, newly put in as Secretary of State, whose number is 202-647-5291, 647-5291. You can make comment to your senators, 202-224-3121, and to your congressman at 202-225-3121. To Washington State. Ron, you're on the air.
Yes. The reason I'm calling is we have to look at the responsibility that's supposed to be taken by us all. In that, prior to our election, you had a couple of programs where Christians and conservatives called in because they were so concerned with Romney being a Mormon. And many groups, such as Tea Party and some other conservative groups, some of them were suggesting that if we can't get our entire Christian agenda, our entire conservative agenda, that they were telling the members not to vote. And there were many conservatives and Christians who didn't vote or voted for Obama because we've allowed, by not rising up, this nation to drop into the abyss it's in and expect this nation to instantly turn around to our values. We had an opportunity to bring these things to a halt or at the least to slow them down, and we threw that out the door because we didn't agree wholly with what a man's religion was. We're going to be judged in this nation, but we also must remember, because of our attitudes toward other people, is bringing this on, and we too will have to answer for what we've done. And I think it's something we have to look at with this government of ours going the way it is, that we ourselves are our own worst enemy at this point, and we need to come together at election time and not vote for what's popular or for what's going to get us the most, but vote for what is biblical-based information and knowledge, and gradually turn this nation around. Until we do that, we're going to keep on this slippery slope into the abyss.
Ron,
thank you for listening to me.
Appreciate your call, and I know that's another whole debated issue which we went through on several programs, and certainly folk went back and forth on this. But keep in mind that the early church prospered even under someone by the name of Nero. And certainly we need to stay faithful to God, realizing our Savior does not live at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. But we can go to Jeremiah 33:3 and says, Call unto me, and I will answer thee, show thee great and mighty things which thou knowest not. Barry in Ohio, you're on the air.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that almost everything we try to do is irrelevant compared to what needs to be done, because the real problem does not lie in the government, it lies in the church.
Yeah.
And when the church gets back to business with God and gets back on its face before God and fast and pray, everything else is almost irrelevant until we truly get back to business with God. Because, the homosexual thing is not God's not going to judge us because of that. That is part of the judgment of God. If we read in Romans 1, that's what it says. It's because when we've changed the truth of God in a lie, we changed God into something that He's not. And that's why we have what we have in Washington. That's why we have this homosexual spirit exploding onto this nation. It's because the church has failed to preach the gospel, and it's preached the compromised gospel, and this is why we have what we have. Thank you.
Thank you for your thoughts here today. Good call to complete our program. We're just seconds before our closing theme, so I'm not going to have time for additional calls. I'm sorry to those who have been waiting here. But, if my people which are called by my name shall humble themselves and pray and turn from their wicked ways and seek my face, then will I hear from heaven, will forgive their sin, and heal their land. Thanks for joining us today on Crosstalk.
Listening to Crosstalk via satellite and the internet from VCY America. Views expressed may or may not be those of this station. For a CD of today's program, send a donation of $6 or more to VCY Tape Ministry, 3434 West Kilbourne Avenue, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 53208. Or download by RSS or podcast from crosstalkamerica.com. And join us again for Crosstalk.